Hey, how's it going? Today's a new day. We are taking a look at it's 6th of Saturday, and I thought I would cover a number of press releases and everything what was announced recently within the last couple of days or so, right? And what's happening within UK or so. I might be able to touch. I have reviewed some of those articles, perhaps worth touching on opportunities as well, perhaps outside the UK, that way perhaps in places like Turkey, massive projects as well as Dubai. I don't know if people might be interested in those projects. It will be just more of the announcements and everything what's happening. If anything, let's begin with UK, and perhaps from there we can progress into other parts, right? Within this article, I thought I would take a look, which I personally believe would be a very important sector. Well, start strong. Let's do it. It's something I was taking a look at all week, right, and all vehicles, right, which might be a very important sector. It's something myself I'm looking to understand a little bit better. Within this press release, we're gonna be taking a look at pathway for zero emission vehicles transition by 2031 becomes a law. Okay. But those laws, it seems that they're changing it all the time. You were asking, this law's been changed all the time, constantly. It's so much fun. But either way. So this is a press release, which was announced 3 days ago. Let's read it and progress for that. Previous targets, something I have mentioned, was very sharp targets. Might be important, but I don't know about how many companies or business people are actually solving this problem. That's a completely different issue. Myself, I'm trying to take part, right, in solving this problem, perhaps helping environment, and or perhaps there might be financial incentives of doing so. But either way, let's progress this article. 80% of new cars and 70% of new vans, right? So when it comes to vans that I have seen, there's only one company. There might be a couple of smaller ones, but I've seen just one company when it comes to vans, right? Sold in Great Britain will now be zero emission by 2030, increased to 100% by 2035. That's more reasonable kinda, because there's a lot of manufacturing facilities keep up with capacity of output, right? So I can touch on those some of those manufacturing facilities with the different parts of UK, which potentially would be part of supply chain. But again, they're still in the makings. I don't know about raw materials and where UK gonna source those. Well, either way, I can touch on that a little bit later. But within this article, targets, more reasonable targets as we speak right now. Another additional 5 years, perhaps they can do within this time frame. Let's take a bullet points and what this press release is gonna be all about, right? I'm taking all this information from government, right? So it's official website. The zero emission vehicle mandate, the government's pathway towards all new cars and vans being zero emissions by 2035 is now a law. They're missing a lot of information since it's not necessarily limited to those, right? So since there's land, sea, air, right? Just to name three areas, right? But perhaps they're making dramatic changes. So I don't know. This is what the administration is doing. New regulations are backed by over 2 billion already invested by government to expand charging infrastructure and incentive zero emissions vehicles. The mandate, or next one, bullet point, the mandate provides certainty to support the economy, industry, and families, and it's the largest carbon saving measure in the government's net zero strategy. Okay, this is what they're saying. Let's stick to perhaps what was outlined within this press release, right? Uh, People are actually doing something, which is great. The UK now has the most ambitious regulatory framework for the switch to electric vehicles of any country in the world, which is accurate. Some of the countries up there might be operating with larger there's a group of people. Some of those countries, uh, based on what data, but with the targets, the UK, yes, the UK has very sharp targets. Yes. Thanks to new laws, switch commenced today, 3rd of January 2024. That was 3 days ago. following an extensive consultation with industry and manufacturers. Myself, I'm interested in this part since I'm reaching out to all these people. There's no radio silence there, so they're saying that they do something there when it comes to consultations, and I don't think there is a lot of consultations, but this is what they're saying. The mandate provides them with the certainty that they have called for the safeguard skilled British jobs, right? Myself, even now, I have two applications forms open where I can submit different projects, right? That would be development infrastructure, and another project would be around 31 when it comes to establishing and or perhaps building some of those vehicles. What I'm saying is opportunities might be there for people who are interested in doing it themselves. It might be a very hard thing to do, but opportunities are there. I don't know how they might be able to green light your project when it comes to actually manufacturing within UK. It's a different story, right? But what they're saying is there's a debate, there's a lot of conversations happening, right? Technology and Decarbonization Minister Anthony Brownie will visit new British Petroleum Pulse Hub in London today to mark the occasion, where he will see the ultra-fast EV chargers in action and meet drivers who have benefited from the facility. Perhaps we're taking a look at this hub, if there might be some business support there, or it would be again invitations only. If it's invitations only and they're not necessarily interested in supporting new businesses coming into the market, that's a different story there. Two different programs that I was referring to. That would be first one, ATA program, strategic batch, express of interest, January 2024. What they're saying opportunities might be there. UK civil aerospace sector more competitive, right? So perhaps they're referring to aerospace, right? But that would be perhaps very similar technology when we're taking a look at perhaps opportunities there. That would be one program, and let's touch on another one. And another one would be Automotive Transformation Fund Express of Interest, around 31. So there's quite a few of those. I don't know how successful and what's happening within those funds. There might be a number of projects where people most likely be able to express their interest and or take part, right? Myself as I'm looking to take part as well. I don't know what is to be required to green light your project. Do you need to know someone? Is it would be invitation someone? Then it's a different story, right? What I'm saying is I'm taking part, right? And for anyone who's interested, they can take part as well, I guess. The zero emission vehicles, something that they're referring to is ZEV. Mandate sets out the percentage of new zero emissions cars and vans manufacturer will be required to produce each year up to 2030. That will be 80%, right? Some of the economists out there, US, have set targets for 50%, so half compared to perhaps other governments. The previous target was 100% by 2030, something I have highlighted this week, right? So they have adjusted those targets of new cars, and 70% of the new vans sold in Great Britain will now be zero emissions by 2030, increased to 100% by 2035. How many large businesses? It's just one that I have seen. There might be smaller companies out there, which would be great, I guess. But again, the price of those vehicles, great, 50,000 pounds, great. If anything is worth mentioning, I don't know, it's good, it's bad, but that's the prices, right? This follows the pragmatic decision taken by Prime Minister to delay the ban on new diesel and petrol cars from 2030 to 35, putting UK in line with other major global economies such as let's keep those, right? As I mentioned, if you or anyone would like to compare themselves against something, perhaps if that's within the interest of comparing, right? Perhaps compare to the countries like Norway. Why won't you or anyone would be interested in comparing to those countries? As I mentioned, when I was in Norway, all the cars was electric back then. It was a long time ago. The UK has over delivered on electric carbon budget to date, having cut greenhouse gases emissions by nearly 50% since 2000 or 1990s. A recent climate change committee analyze shows more. Okay. There's additional information there. In boost for economy, the new laws will help households make the switch to electric, supporting growth of EV sales in the second-hand market and incentives charging to roll out more widely across the country. It's something I have recently touched on, right? So that would be some of the grants available. I think it was about 70%, right? So 30% someone would need to cover that cost, right? I have covered this week some of those incentives in establishing and or building that infrastructure when it comes to charging those vehicles, right? As well as it was highlighted some of the charging points and if it would be privately owned, some of the people would charge whatever they want, I guess. So government had to step in. I don't know what's happening right now, right? The government schemes to lower the upfront and running cost of owning an EV includes the plug-in van grant. Is okay, so I have touched on that already. So might not be worth coming back to that. The UK's charging network continues to grow at the pace. There's a new over 50,000 public charge points with 44% more than this time last year, putting the country well on the track of reach 300,000 charge points by 2030. The certainty of the new ZEV mandate will give industry renewed confidence to invest in our infrastructure. So opportunities out there for those of you who are interested. There might be some opportunities, right? As I mentioned, delivering perhaps even new skills, right, and or perhaps opportunities. There isn't enough, I guess, universities taking part. I have seen. Perhaps we're touching on that when it comes to delivering skills and or knowledge within some of the sectors. I can see with the latest announcements made, only two universities have received funding in delivering skills, right? So, so there's a lot of things in working. Then it comes to building it, right? It's something perhaps worth touching on since that's my perspective coming into this, right? Recent copper prices and or lithium prices when it comes to perhaps even manufacturing energy storage solutions if we're talking about vehicles, right? Recent prices have spiked to say the least about 20%, if not more, depending, right? So with some of those agreements coming into effect with UK signing agreement with places like Chile, and they even working on some of those projects. Something I have taken a look at a couple of Australian brothers trying to reach out to. If perhaps they can, I'm interested in working together, right? If they can perhaps offer me a good deal, I guess, where I'm going to be sourcing all those materials from, right? Before, until I have access to all the materials, I don't know if I can take part in any of those projects, right? Yourself, if you're interested in learning more, I have published a book, Game Strategy. Within this book, I'm taking a look and I'm looking to share as much information as I can with regards to business and everything what people would need to know before entering or setting up a company or launching different enterprises. With the first phase, that would be doing a lot of research and trying to understand as much as you can about business. That's a phase one, progressing into phase two, where you're actually taking action on that information that you have gathered, research work that you have undertaken. Once you take action on that information and beginning or acquiring customers, generating resources, different, it could be a number of those. From there, progressing into phase three, that would be reallocating those resources or beginning investing. You can find that within QR code in the corner company's website below. If myself and perhaps another 10 or 20 people keep calling some of the people who have access to those resources, or perhaps copper, lithium, or different ones, right? And if you're not picking it up, right? Perhaps those cars are gonna cost 60,000 pounds, and just because of the demand, right? But let's progress. Our approach to decarbonization transfer has already attracted record investment in factories and EV manufacturing facilities, including. So there's a project names there, something I have mentioned, right? So that will be big boys there. but there's just a few of those. As I mentioned, there's only one van company there, only one, as well as we have taken a look at. One would be Japan, one would be headquartered within India, Germany, US, and I don't know that much about the last company. Perhaps I could delve a little bit deeper, but that's pretty much where the things are as of now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one.